If you have your Bible with you, you can turn to 1 Corinthians 13. We're going to be looking at verses 1 through 8 of 1 Corinthians 13. Following an evening service, the pastor and his wife made their way home. And as soon as they got home, the pastor's wife plopped down in the easy chair. She pulled the lever, her feet went up. She laid back and she let out a long sigh. And she said, "Oh, I am so tired." And the pastor, her husband, looked at her and said, "This morning I preached the early service, then I taught Sunday school, then I preached the late service, and then I preached the evening service. That's 4 things that I have preached or taught today. Now, why in the world are you so tired?" And she said, "Honey, I'm tired because I had to listen to all of them." Valentine's Day is today. A day that many people think is probably just created because Hallmark wanted to sell some more cards and the florist wanted to sell some flowers. But I think it's a little bit more than that. Saint Valentine was actually a real person and lived a long, long time ago. He's been associated with courtly love. I want to tell you a little bit about Valentine because I think it's important to see his service to the Lord, and that is really where that love came from. He was officially known as Saint Valentine of Rome, and he was a 3rd century Roman saint widely celebrated on February 14th, commonly associated with courtly love. Although not much of St. Valentine's life is reliably known, and whether or not the stories involve 2 different saints by the same name, it's not officially decided, but it's agreed that he was martyred and then buried on the Via Flaminia to the north of Rome. In 1969, the Roman Church took him away from the general Roman calendar because so little was known, but the Church still recognizes him as a saint, listing him in the February 14th spot in the Roman Catholic Church's martyrology. The legends attributed to this mysterious saint are as inconsistent as the identification of who he was. One common story about him is that at one point in his life, as the former bishop of Terni, Narnia, and Aemilia, he was on house arrest with a judge named Asterius. And while discussing religion and faith with the judge, Valentine pledged the validity of Jesus. He said, "I believe in Jesus. I believe that he is the Son of God, and I believe that he is the only way to salvation." Well, the judge said, "Here we go. I will bring my daughter into you. She is blind. Either Jesus heals her or you are wrong." So he brought in the blind daughter, and he put his hands on her eyes, and he prayed. And as it says, that Valentine's prayer restored the child's vision. Judge Asterius was humbled and obeyed Valentine's request. He went and broke all of the idols around his house. He fasted for 3 days. He became baptized. His entire family and the 44 members of his household were baptized, and then he freed all of the Christian inmates that he had. A little later on, Valentine was arrested for continuing to try to convert people to Christianity. He was sent to Rome under the emperor of Claudius II. And according to the popular hagiographical identity, the saint book there, that it's believed to be the first representation of him in the Nuremberg Chronicle. He was a Roman priest and he was martyred during Claudius's reign. The story tells that he was imprisoned for marrying Christian couples by performing marriage ceremonies and aiding Christians that were being persecuted by Claudius in Rome. And that was considered to be a serious crime. So his relationship started to grow with other people, and he ends up getting to meet the emperor, and he actually starts to have a relationship with the emperor himself. And he tried to convince Claudius of Christianity, and Claudius became enraged by it and sentenced him to death, commanding him to renounce his faith or to be beaten with clubs and then beheaded. Valentine, of course, refused to renounce his faith, and he was executed outside the Flaminian Gate on February 14th, 269. However, other tales of his life says that he maybe died in 270 or 273 or 280. Either way, we know that he was martyred for his faith. Other people say that he secretly married couples so that husbands wouldn't have to go to war. I think that was just them trying to explain away the Christian belief that he had. That he refused to sacrifice to pagan gods, and that for that reason he was executed. That was actually probably true. And some also say that he was imprisoned, and while he was imprisoned, he healed the jailer's blind daughter, and that on the day of his execution, he left her a note expressing his love for God, and then he signed it, "Your Valentine." So that's where your Valentine comes from, you know. I want to be your Valentine. Will you be my Valentine? Comes from that. So he lived a life of dedication to God, even to the point of his death. He died. Now that is love, right? That showed love for God and love for man, that he would stand firm in his faith, even to the point of being martyred back on February 14th, 269. Love is important. We think about love a lot on Valentine's Day. It's not just about the candy or the flowers or the gifts or the fancy meal or whatever it is that some people do and some people don't do it. But either way, it's a time that we think about love. And love is important in the life of a Christian. 1 Corinthians 13 is the passage most used about love. It says, "If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away." And then on down into verse 13, he says, "So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is love." Love is patient. Love is patient. We show love when we're patient. No one is perfect. Nobody's perfect. There's a lot of times that people think they're perfect. And a lot of times we think we're perfect, but we are not perfect. We have to understand that we're not perfect and then understand that others are not perfect. Too often we expect others to live up to our exact expectations. Especially with other believers. We expect them to do exactly what is right every time. It's not going to happen. Because nobody's perfect. Other than Jesus, no one has lived a perfect life on this earth. So we have to learn to be patient. We have to learn to be long-suffering, as often the King James puts it. We are all believers on the same journey of sanctification, and sometimes people drive a little slower than others. Some people get there quicker, and some people it takes a little bit longer. You know, sometimes that's just the way it is. Some people drive faster, some people drive slower, some people alternate their speed throughout. And that's the same way it is on our Christian walk, in our Christian life. But we expect everybody, for some reason, to be there already. So we have to learn to be patient with them. That doesn't mean that we condone or tolerate sin. We don't. But it makes us realize our true place. That we are sinners saved by grace, that we are on a journey of sanctification where God is making us more holy every day, and that everybody else is in the same boat that we are in, and so we have some patience with them. Love's also kind. When we show love, we show kindness. You ever heard the phrase, "it was tugging at my heartstrings"? You ever heard that? That just tugged at my heartstrings. It's about compassion and kindness. About having compassion on someone when they're hurting and wanting to help them through their pain. Help them to be strong. Love is kind. Just saying a kind word from time to time will go a long way. Just giving somebody a word of encouragement can go a long way. Love, when we have love, we have that compassion. That's something that I struggle with. I'm not one of the most compassionate people out there. I know a lot of people that are a lot more compassionate than I am. And it's something I pray, Lord, will you help me to be more compassionate? Will you help me to show more of that kindness? Love also, he says, is not envious. When we truly love, we think of others more than ourselves. That's true love, is to think of other people more than you think of yourself. That instead of thinking at every action, what will this mean for me? It's what will this mean for others? And that is an important thing for us to learn if we want to truly love. It means we don't envy what others are and what they have. Remember that song from I can't remember if it's the 70s or the 80s, where the guy says he wishes he had Jesse's girl, right? That's not true love, right? Because he was just, oh gosh, she's so pretty and she's so nice, and I know he's just hugging up on her and all that. And I wish that was me. That's not what true love is. When we have that true love, we'll lose our sense of entitlement. That's what we have, a sense of entitlement, don't we? And we'll lose that when we truly love. Love is also humble. It helps us to realize our station in life. Without God, we are nothing. That is the most humiliating thing we can think of. That's the thing that can humiliate us to bring us to the humbleness that we need to have, is that we can say, without God, I am nothing. Without God, I could not breathe. Without God, I could not see. Without God, I could not walk. And without God, I could not love. I would not even know what love is except for God. When we realize that without God, we are nothing, and we stop thinking too highly of ourselves, then we can show that true love, because that true love comes through humility. It comes through being humble. We have to say all the time, without Him, I would be nothing. Without Him, I'd surely fail. Without Him, I would be drifting like a ship without a sail. Without Him, I would be dying. Without Him, I'd be enslaved. Without Him, life would be hopeless. But with Jesus, thank God, I'm saved. And when we can say that, then we'll know what true love is. Love is polite. We're losing the idea of politeness, but it comes with love. Saying please and thank you. That's just polite, isn't it? You actually say thank you. Thank you. Saying please. Using tact is a good thing, and it's a loving thing, but it's something that you have to be intentional about. You can tell it like it is in a way that is still loving. And we have to learn to do that. To be true and to not make excuses, and to be bold, but to still do it in love. And that means to do it politely. We have lost politeness. We have lost politeness. I've noticed it in politics a lot over the last, probably 20 years. Seems like politeness is a thing of the past. They used to always at least try to pretend like they could get along with other people, the politicians did, and maybe they don't really do that anymore. Usually, now it seems like words like unity and together and all that are just slogans, because it's really not. It's I'm going to hurt whoever else as worst I can when I get in. And that goes for both sides. That's what we're going to do, because we're not going to be polite anymore. It's one of the things that I actually really like about the legal profession is I can go into court and I can go with the prosecutor and we can be just going at it as hard as we can in the courtroom and really working, and even adrenaline gets rushing and tempers even kind of get high, and then when it's done, you know what we can do? We can go get lunch. And it's just it's the way it is, that we can be collegial even when we have disagreements. Guess what? You're going to have disagreements with people, even people that you love. We have to learn to do it in a polite way, because that's what love does. Love is easy to work with. When our relationships are full of love, we enjoy being and working with each other. There is somebody, you wouldn't have to think very hard, but there's somebody out there that you could say, I can't stand to work with that person. I just can't stand to work with that person, because if I do, they drive me nuts. You know what that really is? It's a love problem in the relationship, and it usually goes both ways. The reason that they're driving you nuts is because they're not showing you a whole lot of love, and maybe part of the reason that they're driving you nuts too is because you're not showing them enough love. It's a love problem, because love is easy to work with. Love is forgiving. Love doesn't hold on to wrongs, but it lets them go. And we can hold on to a grudge, can't we? We can hold on to a grudge. We have to let them go. We have to forgive. Love rejoices with truth. Love doesn't like lies, but it rejoices with the truth. Truth seems few and far between today. You ever heard of relativism, especially moral relativism? It's this idea that what is moral and what's not differs among people. So, for instance, I could say, and I'll take it to the extreme, which the moral relativists wouldn't take it this far, but if you actually follow their argument logically, this is what it comes to. Well, it may not be okay for you to kill somebody in anger, but it's okay for me to kill somebody in anger. Right? Because our morality is relative into who's doing it. That's not what love is. Love realizes that there is an absolute truth. There is an absolute truth. We can look at it. We can say, okay, this is milk. Right? How do I know it's milk? Because it came from a cow. And it came out of the cow's udder, and it's white, and it tastes like milk, and it smells like milk. And if you shake it up real good, the cream will rise to the top, and that's how I know it is milk. Right? And so we can all say, that is milk. We would never say, well, that might be milk for you, but that's not milk for me. Right? Would we ever say that? But yet we could say the same things about morality. Well, that might be for you, but that's not for me. Now, that's not that we don't have areas and matters of conscience, but there are certain things that for everyone it is right and for everyone it is wrong. And love rejoices in that truth. Love bears and believes and hopes and endures. Love is strong. It lasts. True love has faith. True love has hope. The hope of Christ's finished work. And love endures. It's a steadfast love. And love is eternal. It doesn't die. It never fails. It never ends. We will experience God's love eternally. We will love each other eternally. And who is the perfect example of true love but Jesus Christ, who had no beginning, who has no end, who lived a perfect life, a holy, a just life, a patient life, a polite life, a kind life. He was a humble man. He was not envious. He was easy to work with. He was forgiving. He rejoiced with truth. He is love. Jesus is love. And He showed that love most of all when He died on the cross for our sins, that we can have eternal life to love Him forever. If you've never put your trust in Him, do it today. Love Him with all that you are. Experience the true love of God. It's Valentine's Day. We're thinking about love, and the epitome of love is in the person of Jesus Christ. Serve Him today. Let's bow our heads together.